welcome to Seen Through Glass. Welcome to a very grey, wet and miserable London. Unfortunately, today I have to return the GTC4 Lusso T to Ferrari. It's been the most amazing 10 days with this car. If you don't know, I took it over to Geneva for the motor show and then poodled around Switzerland and France in it, and it's just been the ultimate grand tourer. I have loved every second, but now I have to give it back. And because I've got an hour-and-a-half drive in these kind of crappy traffic-filled conditions, I thought it could be a good time to sit down and do a Q&A, because I don't really remember the last time I did a Q&A, and it's already March 2018. I don't know how that's happened. 3 months of the year already gone. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. I put a post out on Instagram asking you guys to submit your questions, and now I'm going to sit down and try and answer as many of them as possible. I'm on Hype Beast has asked why I started doing videos, when I started doing videos, and what was my first video. You can probably find that all out if you go onto the YouTube channel. Well, actually you're on the YouTube channel now, and just look back through my history. But I think it was 3 years or so ago now that I started, and I started a YouTube channel because I was doing freelance PR publicity, and I was a little unsatisfied, and my dad, who's been self-employed all his life, said, well look, find a hobby, and when you're not busy, do your hobby, and when you are busy, just put your hobby to the side. And my hobby was always making videos and cars, so I was like, well, I'll just combine the two and have a little YouTube channel, and at the weekend go out and spot some cars and just do that. And it just grew crazily out of nowhere, and then obviously became my obsession and now my career. And my first video was well, actually the first video on the channel I think is a povlog, driving around and just spotting cars in central London. I think I thought I saw a Yanni wrapped Porsche or something like that. But funny enough, I did do a test video before that where I had a little point and shoot camera, and I drove around and kind of just sort of figured out what I would film and what I would say. And I remember following a Carrera GT, and I remember not talking very much because I was a bit nervous about the whole thing. But yeah, that was actually the first video I shot with the frame of mind that I'd be launching a YouTube channel. The Jackson Watts asked if I could live anywhere with the car culture, where would it be? Los Angeles. That would be, I mean, because I love London, don't get me wrong, I have no plans to leave London in terms of living anytime soon, but I do love LA, and I find the LA car culture amazing. So I cannot wait to get back there. I'm hoping to go back at least 2 or 3 times this year. So yeah, Vlog Angeles in some form will be returning in 2018. Lucas Wilhelmi 9, it's always impossible to pronounce these Instagram names, has asked whether I prefer the McLaren Senna, Aston Martin Valkyrie or Mercedes Project One. It's a bit of a weird one. For me, of the 3, my favourite is the Valkyrie. I love everything that it represents. I love the fact that Adrian Newey's on board. We all know that I've got this kind of obsession with Aston Martin at the moment, and I think it looks the kind of most futuristic but aesthetically pleasing futuristic. The Project One I think is going to be the dark horse. I think visually it looks a little understated. That's why people don't think of it in the same category so much, but it is fundamentally a Formula One car. I mean, it's fundamentally a Formula One car with a sort of shell on the top. So I think once people get behind the wheel of that, they're going to be blown away. But I admit, visually it looks a little bit safe for now. The Senna, I know will probably, to say it'd be the quickest of the 3 is a big statement, but I know it will be unbelievable to drive, but it does nothing for me visually. I even after seeing it in Geneva, I'm still just like, nope. Juan Cholang has asked, is the hunt for a classic still on? Yeah, no, not really. I did talk about this in a video, I think maybe the end of last year or the beginning of this year, where because of the 360 and because of some other things going on in my life, the money that I'd put aside for a classic has kind of been spent. I still have a small pot and I'm still planning to do something with it, and I would still love a classic, but I think I've put it on the bench for now. I'm still intrigued, I still look, and every now and again I get super tempted because people come and ask me to drive things or send me links to some amazing classics, and I would love to do it, but my plans for this year and next year have changed so much that the classic project just feels a little overwhelming at this point. So never say never, things could change, but right now it's not my immediate focus. I do still want to do some classic car test drives and experiences because I just love them, but in terms of purchasing one, I don't expect it to happen this year. I don't expect, but I'll say don't hold me to that for sure, because we never know on YouTube, do we? Jordan Nichols 92 asks a really interesting question. Does the YouTube live ever become a hassle? Now, I would never say it becomes a hassle, but it is the hardest and the most work I've ever done in my life. And I know that will seem like a really strange thing to say, because I think from the outside, looking at what YouTubers do, we just look like we're having the most fun in the world. We just fly around the world, driving cool cars, and how is that classified as a real job? And funnily enough, I did a post at Geneva, like pretending to be asleep in a van, being like, oh, I'm knocked out, the show's taken it out of me. And I saw a lot of comments from people being like, God, imagine if you had a real job. And it's definitely the biggest thing that is kind of like undervalued or underestimated about YouTubing or blogging or anything, is how much work it involves. Because not only are you constantly filming or editing, which is a full-on experience, you know, it might only be a 8 to 12 minute video, but for me, to create a 10 to 12 minute video usually takes me 4 or 5 hours worth of filming. That's usually what it does. And for every hour's worth of filming, I would estimate I do half an hour's worth of editing. So a 4-hour video shoot will be 2 hours worth of editing. Some days I shoot for 6 or 8 hours because it's a massive daily vlog. So that will end up being in 3 or 4 hours of editing. So the majority of my day is filming or editing. However, alongside that, you got to keep up with Instagram, with Twitter, with emails, with DMs, with Facebook pages, with all the things that are going on, whilst also planning content, reaching out to people, thinking ahead, reacting to stuff. So I love it. That's the thing, is I am so passionate about what I'm doing, or I feel so passionate about what I'm doing, that it doesn't feel like work. And I hear this a lot from people that I meet in different industries who love what they do. You don't wake up, I don't wake up and I think, oh, I've got to go film a video today, like, oh, I've got to reply to those emails. I'm just doing it, and therefore it's 24/7. I don't have weekends. I don't remember the last time I had a holiday. Actually, no, that's a lie. Last year I took a week off and went to Bulgaria. But before that, I hadn't had a holiday in about 2 years. And, you know, dinners, you're on your phone. You skip meals. Like, it's non-stop. And I don't want to sound ungrateful for that, because I realise that a lot of people out there are slaving away at jobs they don't really enjoy, and we all work hard. But therefore, I would say it's an exhausting lifestyle. It's a very creatively and physically and mentally exhausting lifestyle. But because I love it, it kind of seems worth it. It's a weird thing to say. So hassle is the wrong word. It's definitely not a hassle, but it's a commitment. It's a huge, huge commitment that a lot of people maybe underestimate. Jake Harrell _0_ has asked what my favourite show from the Geneva Motor Show was. My favourite car from the Geneva Motor Show was. To give a one-word answer, it would be the 488 Pista. But Tony and I have actually recorded a Geneva special podcast. So I know I keep banging on about this, but I really want as many of you to at least check out the podcast once, even if you think you might not be interested, because we're so excited by what's happening over there. There's so much positivity around the podcast that I want more people to kind of experience it. So Tony and I have recorded a Geneva special Behind the Glass podcast. So you can go over to the Behind the Glass channel, links on screen now and below, and check that out, because we talk about all the cars that we liked, all of our thoughts, all the cars we didn't like, everything about it. You can also listen to it, soundcloud.com/Behind the Glass, /Seen Through Glass, or search Behind the Glass on iTunes podcasts. But yeah, my favourite car was the 488 Pista. But there are some thoughts around it, so yeah. Anyway, complicated. Go check out Behind the Glass, please. Jimmy Hibbs 1977 has asked, what is the current mileage on the Ferrari 360, and is it still my plans to keep that car for a long time? And yes, a lot of you have actually been asking, where is the 360, what's been happening with it? And I keep talking about it, but everyone keeps missing the fact that it was always my plan to rest up that car after the trip down to Italy, the Finale Mondiale trip, until road trip season, which is kind of April. So the car was always going to be a bit quiet during this period, but a lot of people seem to have missed that fact. It's done 28,500 miles now. I bought it with 25,000 miles, so I've done about 3,500 miles to date. And I think when it gets to around 35,000 miles, I'll start slowing down a bit and just be a bit aware of the mileage I'm doing, just in terms of future value, because Ferraris are weird like that. Now, I don't want to be too precious, because I love that car and I want to use it as I see fit, but it's just something to bear in mind. I think when you start getting close to 40,000, 50,000 miles in a Ferrari, it's going to be quite hard to sell it if I ever want to sell it. Now, that's the thing, is I don't. I would love to keep that car for the rest of my life. How cool would it be to be 65 or 70 years old and go, that's the first Ferrari I bought? But I just don't know how life's going to turn out. Am I going to be able to afford to keep a Ferrari for the rest of my life? Who knows? So I just want to keep an eye on that. But anyway, road trip season is approaching. Over the next couple of weeks, I am going to be driving the 360 a lot to kind of warm it up and get it ready and run through its various systems to make sure it's good and ready to go on a big, long road trip. But it's still fantastic and I love it. Victor_Deeds or Deddies or Dades. Will I be attending any Formula 1 races this year? Yes, absolutely. I think on the immediate agenda are probably Monaco F1 and Silverstone F1. So that's the British Grand Prix and the Monaco Grand Prix. I would love to do some more later on in the year. So potentially, I really want to get out to Texas for the US Grand Prix. Potentially Spa and Belgium. But yeah, I will try and get to as many races as possible throughout the year, but at the moment, Monaco and Silverstone are the only two on my set agenda. For Smoking Tailpipes would like to know how much of my content is pre-planned by myself, how much is on the result of people reaching out with various opportunities, you know, basically how I come up with my videos. And I would say it's about 75% me, myself and I, and 25% people reaching out and saying, you know, come on a press drive, or would you like to test drive my car, or whatever it might be. But yeah, 75% of it is probably me sitting at my desk going, what the hell am I going to film this week? Bradley Mabry has asked a question that I've been looking to answer for quite a long time, which is essentially, why do I and many YouTubers keep changing their cars so often? Is it because we get bored of the cars that we're in, or is it because our financial situation improves and we want to change up? And really, it's a mixture of both, I suppose. I'm very spoiled doing what I do. I get to be in, I get to drive many, many amazing cars. So it's very hard for me not to have my attention stolen all the time. So I might be in love with a specific car and then 2 months later drive something else which I think is even better. So it's very hard to be focused, which is a big reason why I bought the 360, because as amazing as the 540C was, there are many, many supercars that do that kind of job, that do those kind of performance stats, and they tend to sometimes blur into one. Whilst they all have little USPs, they kind of blend into being as capable as each other. Whilst the 360 is special to me, it's not all about speed, it's about character, it's about the way it makes you feel. Now, the Cayman, for example, is a very, very good but quite generic sports car. Back in the day, the Cayman didn't have many rivals, but now you've got the TTRS, arguably you've got the M2, you've got the Alpine, you've got lots of cars in that segment that are all arguably very, very good. And so I picked the Cayman because I was just like, this kind of speaks to me. But as time goes on, you get in an Alpine, or you get into a 911, 991.1 or 0.2, and you go, oh, this is even better. It's very hard to be in love with a car when there are lots of ones that do as good a job. So we're spoiled in that sense. I think you could argue the financial situation improves because as you grow on YouTube, as you get more opportunities, you do sometimes start to earn a bit more money. And because I finance, it all comes down to essentially monthly payments. And so whilst I might be starting off paying 500 quid a month for something, and that's, you know, in my budget, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later, I might be able to afford 600 quid a month or 700 quid a month. And then suddenly I go, wow, I could get this now. So we're a little bit like kids in a candy store, I think. I've always dreamed of owning amazing cars, and now suddenly I have the opportunity, thanks essentially to you guys watching the videos, but I guess the work that I'm doing, and I try and work my socks off so I can have as much money as possible and get as many cars as I can. But as I say, yeah, therefore, it's like, wow, suddenly I can afford X, Y, and Z, arguably through financing, and a lot of you will say that's not a wise thing to do, but YOLO. I mean, if I'm bankrupt in a year's time, I'll know why. It's because I spent all my money on cars, but I probably would have had a really good time doing it. So yeah, it's not always the most sensible thing to do, I fully admit, but it's the way I am. I'm always going to spend as much money as I can on cars. Tom Groves, WRC, has asked if I ever plan to do anything with rallying. I'm assuming the WRC part in your handle means that you're either a big rallying fan or involved with WRC. Yes, I would love to. Last year at Goodwood, as part of a presenting gig that Paul and I were doing for Michelin MSN, I went in a rally car with Mikko Hirvonen around the Goodwood rally stage, and it was like the most mind-bending, bizarre experience I've ever had, hurtling through a forest at God knows what speed, most of the time sideways, and I was like, I need to do more of this. So yeah, I'd love to do more rallying stuff, but it's just finding the opportunities, really. Aravind J05 is asked in one sentence, can I like give any advice to budding YouTubers, people who want to get into the YouTube car scene? This is very hard for me to do because I think at the moment the car scene on YouTube is very oversaturated. There are lots and lots of channels doing very similar things, and you see it when there's big car launches or big events. You get 5 or 6 YouTubers all going to the same event, all making the same video, and we're all super aware of it, but it's very hard to combat because when, for example, Bentley call you up and say, do you want to come to Austria and drive a new Bentayga? Of course you're going to be like, yes. It doesn't matter that there's 5 or 6 other guys there who are going to be trying to do the same thing, because you don't want to turn down that opportunity. And I think we work hard behind the scenes to try and create different narratives and things for you guys, but fundamentally it's difficult. So if you want to start a YouTube channel around cars, my biggest bit of advice would try and think of a unique way to approach it, because the last thing I think we need as an audience, as a car audience, is another like supercar YouTuber. You know, there's so many people out there doing it now. I bought a McLaren, I bought a Lamborghini, blah, blah, blah. I wrapped it, I put an exhaust on it, I sold it. The generic formula. Because, you know, it's just kind of been done, and it is being done. There's a really nice 488 Spider over there. So yeah, I think if you're going to come to the car space on YouTube, try and think of a unique angle, whether that's JDM cars, whether that's drifting, whether that's classics, whether that's point of view videos, bring back the povlog, whatever it might be, just to bring a slightly different perspective to a space that is quite oversaturated. Because if you turn up just doing supercar videos that are already being made, I think you might struggle to get the growth, because there's so many of us already doing it at a certain level. So yeah, try and think of something a bit different. That would be my advice. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that long name because I'm driving and I can't read it and I can't remember it. But how do we get press cars? It's relationship building, it's networking. You know, Geneva Motor Show, the majority of the time that I'm there, the main reason I'm there is to connect with manufacturers and press teams and various people to say, like, you know, this is what I'm working on. Have you got any cars that you might want to support with? Have you got any press drives coming up? And it's just networking, and trying to prove your worth, trying to prove why manufacturers should work with you. And some of them buy into it, some of them don't. I'm extremely grateful for those that do. But it's a new thing. A year and a half or so ago, it didn't really happen very much, and now it's happening a lot more. So it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. I'm very grateful for it. But yeah, it's just a lot of hard work and networking, really. I think that feels like a good time to wrap things up, because I'm nearly on the motorway, so the audio's going to be getting worse, the weather is getting worse, and I've probably banged on enough. I know I picked out some very specific questions there, but I was trying to like pick out the questions that many of you asked, so hopefully I got back to a lot of you. Anyway, lots of exciting things coming up over the next few weeks. I'm headed to New York at the end of the month for the New York Motor Show. I cannot wait for that. And then April is really the start of the big trips. I hope you found this video informative. Give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and make sure you subscribe for plenty more videos to come.